of what you need to do, farts. Oh no. All right, take 3. Hey, it's Patrick Coyle, artist in progress, and I suck at talking shop with other creators. So today is part 3 of my conversation with Midnight Mystery creator Bernie Gonzalez. We talk about the benefits of finding a good printer, why Procreate is the right tool for him, and the real work that you need to do to get your comics out there. And it isn't writing and drawing. Let's dig in. Hey, real quick, do me a favor. If you dig this video, hit the subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be notified when my new releases go live. Okay, here's the final installment of my conversation with Bernie Gonzalez.
Volume 3, thank you. That's
yeah, you bet.
kind.
Yeah, I got the volume 2 right here as well. And
Awesome.
volume 1, I think, is upstairs with my collection. The reason that I was initially drawn to your work was, of course, because of your influences, right? So I could see Alex Toth, I could see Darwin Cook, I could see Bruce Timm, I could feel the whole Timverse kind of in there. And I think
I wear those on my sleeve. They're very
100%. As soon as I went to your site and I read your about page, you were like, I love Darwin Cook. I love Alex Toth.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what I want to do.
Mad Libs, where you know all the answers. You're like,
right.
Yep, I know everything that influences this guy.
That's
I got
right.
it.
Yeah. So that was great. And then, so I picked up your first volume, I don't know, late last year, maybe?
Because I released it around, it was close to maybe Halloween or maybe just right after.
Yep, that feels right.
And then I think right after that, I'd gone to the printer for volumes 2 and 3.
Okay.
Or rather reverse 3 and 2. And those I was just kind of playing the waiting game over the holidays. So while I was kind of fulfilling the orders for 1, my mind was already in kind of like the world of 2 and 3. But I want to say volume 1 I did like get it out there. Maybe it was Halloween, maybe early November.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. I remember reading it around Thanksgiving, so that makes sense. So you're self-publishing, obviously. Are you paying for this out of pocket yourself?
Yeah, out of the kindness of my wife's patience. It's all just I had like a really good business plan on how I thought this would kind of work, and I knew I wouldn't need too many, so just kind of like figuring out the math and I was working with Comic Spring or Greco Comic Spring, I think is the name of it.
Okay, that's the printer?
That's the printer, yeah. They're, I want to say, out of Michigan. And I'd heard enough good things about them. I'd seen a few projects here and there at artist alleys where folks you get the option when you go through them to do the ad, which I don't think provides you like a discount since you're obviously like promoting them, but just like a nice thing to do, like pass it forward to other creators.
Sure.
So that was one, like I had one, flip to the back, I see this ad, I'm like, oh, this comic looks good, it feels good. And instead of doing the usual, hi artist that I like, where'd you get this printed? I'm like, oh, here's the ad for it right there. And just thought, you know what, this is pretty neat. And they were very customer friendly. And when you start kind of doing the math and figuring out, all right, so if I print X amount of copies, and I think their threshold for discounts is $250. Okay. So anything under $250, depending on your page length, right? So I try to keep them all at $120 because that puts it around like, I think it's like $9.50 to produce like per copy. Okay. And then I always throw in maybe another 50 cents to $1 for the mailers and the shipping supplies. So sure. I figure I'm always at around like $10 to actually make the thing and get it out of my house. Sure. So that's where the pricing kicks in. I'm like, well, I think at 25 comparatively for self-published work, especially independent work, I feel like that's competitive enough that I could at least make back what I got out of it, and then basically just use the flywheel effect where I just take everything I made from 1, put it right into ordering 3, and I kind of did them out of order because 3 I already had produced. Okay. That was the second volume with my previous publisher. So it was easy to just take the files, do some remastering, go back to that one panel where I'm like, well, maybe I could have changed something a little bit. Well, now I can do that. And then having seen the proof for 1, I could see how I had to make the color corrections to make volume 3 come out even faster. So it was a quick turnaround for that one. And then after that, it was just taking volume 2, which was predominantly new material.
Yep.
And then knowing now the color calibrations, what the printer could do, like, okay, I could actually get more colorful because they're, you know, like I would do like a test panel and just like know in the back of my mind, like, all right, well, when I get like the proof, you know, like this one, where I would just like go in and literally go to like, all right, let me go to page like 62, panel 3. Like, I know I used a lot of yellow in that panel. Let's see what that looks like on the proof.
Sure.
I'm like, cool. I can pull that off in the next story, which might have more yellow highlights.
Sure. No, the colors look fantastic.
Yeah, I was. Thank you. Yeah, I'll give them a lot of credit because what I have on the screen, I don't think there has been much compromise from my monitor to the printed page.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's actually pretty awesome. I mean, you hear so many people complain when they get it back.
Yeah, I think the hardest part is, you know, I think, you know, and this is just like the business of making comics that not a lot of people dig into, which is why I appreciated, like, you know, thank you for the invite, but just like, I like what you're doing because I think there is a way where we'll say the hashtag like make comics idea is one that a lot of people, I think, talk around. Yeah, but they don't necessarily talk internally about whether it's, you know, not to get too like psychoanalytical, but like the psyche, like the what it means to actually make a comics, the compromises you make with family and friends, the feelings of being on an island and like this kind of I don't know, very solitary, if not necessarily socially, but emotionally existence. And then on top of that, there's this other layer where, you know, we have to now wear the business part of it to do things like this in promotion. And then on top of that, start understanding things about color calibration and, you know, understanding what it's like to print for scale. Do I want a pallet of 1,000 books sitting in my garage? Right. Where my wife is like, well, where are we going to park the car? You know? But I know that maybe I'm getting them, you know, from maybe a foreign printer for $4 or $5 a copy, if not less. Yep. Or do I work with a local printer, test my theory, and kind of do the whole, you know, I think you're a developer, right? Web developer?
Designer, actually. Yeah.
Designer. Okay. So, you know, just kind of do a sprint. Like, let's try MVP. Right?
Yeah, totally.
And just like, let's see if this works and let's iterate. And if it's good, then, all right, well, the next version, like now I have my colors and I have figured this out. Maybe the next time I'll do a 500 print run or 1,000 print run. Yep. As long as I have a fan base that I've curated enough to warrant this. If not, it's like, fine, then we'll do something else.
Sure. Yeah, there's, you're familiar with Rick Remender, you know, the writer-artist. So he always I listened to a ton of interviews that he used to do, and he was always talking about how punk rock comics need to be. And by punk rock, he doesn't mean like anti-establishment. He means DIY, right? So you gotta, and just the fact that no one told you how to do things, and no one would. So you just had to kind of figure it out. And so one of the reasons I want to do this is because I feel like there's a lot of spread out wealth of knowledge, right? From people who are doing it on a smaller scale. People like, I've got tons of books back here that tell you how to make comics, but it's all for like pitching it to Dark Horse, or maybe going to Image, or at the upper echelons, maybe getting to DC and Marvel and working for hire. But it's not about self-publishing and just getting your own vision out there. And that's what I want to do. It's what you're doing. It's going to take me a while to get there, which is why I started this podcast, so I can meet folks like yourself. And, you know, I go to local shows and I meet a couple of people, but then you just start seeing the same people. And your scope of influence, you know, just kind of narrows. So I don't know if you know, but I used to run a comic publishing company called Comic Works.
I started after you reached out. I mean, outside of just doing some Googling on my own, like I saw all your videos. The one with your daughter was really good. Get her some chips, please.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, I was just kind of checking out. Like you seem to have a good, varied background, not only with kind of like seems like a personal motivation to support, let alone make comics, but peripheral to comics and like Comics Wellspring, working I think with like Stanley Media, but it's like you've always been involved in the industry in some way. So that I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, so we did, I don't know if you can see my books, they're down here. I won't grab them, but we did 5 black and white what do you call it? Not compendiums.
Anthologies or
Thank you.
Mhm.
Brain fried.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
5 anthologies, and my partner was a guy named Shannon Denton, who's been in comics, and he was an editor at Wildstorm a few years ago. He used to pencil for Marvel, and he worked for Rob Liefeld for a while back in the 90s, and he's been in animation for 20 years. And he's really good at networking because he's a freelancer, so he has to constantly be finding out, where that next paycheck's going to come from.
Sure.
And so with him as a partner, we got like several hundred different comics, animation, and film professionals to pay per page to be in our anthologies.
Mhm.
And then we only sold 500-600 copies through Diamond in the comic book shops around, but we had Keith Giffen in there, we had Dwayne McDuffie in there, we had enough people, enough marquee names that people would pick up the book.
Sure.
And we'd sell. I still have about, like you said, I still have boxes of thousands of each one of those over my garage from 15 years ago.
Okay.
But it was awesome. The one thing that I didn't get to do was make my own comics. So I ended up running the business.
Sure.
And doing all the design work and doing all the pre-press work and running the website, and because we had free comics on the website every week. And so
that makes for a perfect partnership, though.
It does. It actually, we complemented each other very well. And we still work together loosely. We just don't have a formal partnership anymore. We're constantly, running ideas past each other. I'll occasionally help him out with his website, or it's that kind of thing. But the upside is I got to meet tons of people, and so I love the creative side of the industry, and those feel like my people. I'm sure you probably feel that way as well. Because you don't just meet people who critique things, which is what fandom is, and we all have some of that in us, but you meet a lot of people who appreciate the work that goes into something that maybe you didn't understand, or of something that you maybe isn't made for you or isn't your favorite thing. You still understand, like, oh, that person, look at all the inking work, that must have been a pain in the ass, or like, the writing isn't great, but look at the storytelling, or they were rushed on this one, or the printer fucked up on this one, or what have you. Anyways, I'm just rambling at this point.
Oh, no, that makes sense. I mean, it's very much, I think the what is it, the Roosevelt quote, the man in the arena.
Yeah.
When you kind of see someone else and you see the work that went into it, or someone might see the end product, you see the late nights, you see the, all, like you said, the line work, the time that took, the experimentation, the, just everything. You see the journey rather than the destination.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody else may see a really good book that took a lot of time and work to do. I think that's the difference between, like, even friends or family who see a book that you make, and they see the destination, but then a total stranger, like you or me, may look at someone in the artist alley and be like, I see the journey, like I see the work that you put into it, and there's something about that's almost making it is almost more interesting than the end product. Like,
exactly.
How'd you get this? How'd you research printers? Like, how did you find these other collaborators? How did this work? But like, beyond like the superficial, like, oh, well, I found them online. It's like, that's not enough. Like, sorry, but like,
that's right.
We're gonna have to like dig into this a little bit more. Like, what was your email like? Because now we're like breaking down the science of like cold calling. How did you get someone to respond to you?
Right. Exactly.
I do draw like every night. I mean, I probably draw for 3 to 4 hours every evening.
Do you really?
So, yeah. I mean, I'm very, like, probably to my wife's discontent, and I know because she shared it quite a few times. But anytime that we're watching a show, going through something, like a series, it's constantly head up, head down. Like, I'm just drawing and through Procreate, and that's maybe a whole other thing. But again, it goes back to the theme of time.
Sure.
I knew that if I was drawing on a page, I had to find the right materials, right? Find the right paper that could hold the right ink and was durable enough to hold up against erasing and trying to make the best thing. And then when that stops becoming as precious, because you're going to scan it and you can do some of the cleanup work digitally, then you don't have to spend as much time making the thing perfect on the page.
Right.
But now you're just moving some of that time to the digital workspace, because now you're like, well, I have to clean it up here. And in the meantime, I've literally, like, in my head, like, clocked myself. I'm like, you've spent now 4 hours on this page, from making it to scanning it to cleaning it up.
Mm-hmm.
How do you cut that in half?
Right.
Is it possible?
Right.
Okay, well, if I just go to Procreate, now I'm just essentially going straight to inks. Well, there has to be some value in that, and there is. And then now I can make a page in half the time. But like I was saying before, well, I drew this hand perfectly, and I have the same gesture here, except that it's reversed. Well, I can just cut the hand, move it over, flip it horizontally, vertically, whatever it is, and now I've saved myself a few seconds, and then it starts feeling like our animation production artwork. But I think, you know, I don't know that it's any different from like sampling if you're a musician, where you're like,
right.
Well, I'm going to just use this other soundtrack because it kind of conveys what I want, and then I'll eventually write the thing. Or if you're in coding and you write the perfect code for a website, and then someone else says, hey, I want a website with a newsletter, sign up. And you're like, yeah, I already wrote the code for that, but I'm just going to take that code, bring it over. And now I don't have to rewrite that code, but I still have to work on the rest of the website. But this one thing is done. I think that's how I'm trying to kind of like get myself to the point of thinking with comics, where it is as much production as it is art. And if I'm not going to get any better at drawing, and that's probably not possible, like I'm not there, maybe I can get better at the production piece.
Sure. No, that makes perfect sense. What's the one piece of advice you would give to a creator just starting out?
It's almost like you have to have what is it, the Shackleton quote, like superhuman effort. It's something, oh man, something about like, it doesn't matter, like you're gonna have to put so much into this. Or maybe it's a Theodore Roosevelt quote, like if you want something you've never had, you're gonna have to do something you've never done. So if you want to make a comic, you're gonna have to do something that you've never done. Like you're gonna have to draw every night for 4 hours. You're gonna have to go into a YouTube rabbit hole on brush tips and how to use them and clean them and like understand that in order to get the line that Paul Pope has now mastered, that is going to take you time to get there. Like there is a sacrifice that you have to be willing to make. And I think the great thing about comics, like most art, is that sacrifice comes in different ways, where Jeff Darrow is, you know, we talk about him again, like he's willing to make the sacrifice of time because it now represents on the page what he wants. It's probably, if you took pictures of his head, I'm pretty sure what's on the page is he's just trying to figure out how to like project it from his head onto the page. And I'm gonna guess he's doing a really good job of that because you know we see that. But I mean, I think that's no different from what Alex Toth was doing, or you know, any of these great artists, Kubert, all that were able to do that. And there's something about that process, but there's you almost have to be maniacal in your like in wanting to do that, because if not, it's so difficult to become an NBA player unless you do like 10,000 free throw shots every morning.
That's right.
And you realize that, you know, the stroke is not, you know, it's muscle memory at that point. You know, it's the, you know, of watching a good actor, but not realizing that they workshop the hell out of this thing for X amount of time, and that the nuances in their nonverbals and their cadence all came from something that they discovered on the 17th or 70th time. And now you're seeing the byproduct of 100 workshops or 100 sketchbooks. We're like, wow, you know how to draw this World War II plane really well. And I'm like, no, I just cheated and I used a model and I took pictures of it from different standpoints, but that allowed me to take the same time to learn how to draw expressions better. So that's how I used my time. So I'm like, yeah, I didn't know how to do a, you know, heartbroken expression. So I cheated on the plane, but I'm not going to cheat on the expression because I couldn't do that one. So it's just transferring that time around. I think there's something really interesting about all that. That's just kind of like this constant work in progress that we're all kind of working on. And some people are just get there a little faster than others.
All right. Well, let's put this one to bed. It's Bernie Gonzalez. Thank you so much for being on Patrick Sucks at Drawing.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it. Hopefully this wasn't too boring for anyone.
What? No. There's no way you could fit a corpse in the trunk of a tercel. Do they even make tercels anymore? No, listen. It's like I always say. Got a body? Get an Odyssey. What? It kind of rhymes. Shut up. Hey, and we're back. How did you enjoy my conversation with Bernie? Have you considered self-publishing? Why or why not? And what's your drawing app of choice? Let me know down in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. If you liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up so other people like you can find it. And if you'd like to watch more of my videos, take a look at the ones listed here. I've got more conversations with other artists you might like, or maybe check out some advice based on my personal experience. And as always, remember this. You don't suck. You just think you do. And you're wrong. Okay, keep drawing, writing, weaving, conjuring, whatever, suckers. See you next time. Peace!